So,
If you want to use the lectern, you can just move it forward as I'm
makes me
moving.
feel important.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
We should have
It's
VIP on
designed to
there.
spill it.
No, it's flat down here.
No.
So, you guys are the 33rd men's shed that I've spoken to around the state.
Bingo!
34 was the winning entry. But, yeah, so I have visited a number of sheds. Got to say, pretty good shed, guys. I've seen bigger, seen smaller, but yeah, it's a really good setup. Actually, my colleagues checked you out this morning on Google, just to see, make sure I was safe coming out here today. You've got some really good, just Google images, it's really cool. The other thing I'd like to thank you for is having a Macca's so close. I had some lunch before I came, it was great. So I'm a community engagement officer, which fortunately for me, tells you everything that I do. I engage with the community. I've been blessed since 2010 to be in this team, and I've got to travel the state. So I've been as far north as Thursday Island, as far west as Birdsville, far south as Gundawinian, and about 130 towns in between. So I do a lot of regional visits. The problems with scams, doesn't matter where you are, it's the same things. I go and talk to people out there, and they can recognise everything that I'm talking about anyway. But it's been a good little trip for the last few years, when I don't like doing it anymore and not able to do it physically. That's when I'll retire, I think. Anyway, avoiding scams. I'm really pleased that Mark didn't say it was just scams, because some people get confused and I'm going to come and teach you how to do them. A lot of disappointment around the countryside, but it's to avoid them. So it's recognising, and we'll talk about this if we've got time. We'll talk about some of the consumer rights, but you can also get me back for that as a bit more extensive. So avoiding scams. Let's see what we've got. First up, a safety warning. Who in the room has not checked their vehicle to see if it's got a Takata airbag? Who hasn't checked it? Yeah, it's okay to admit it, because today you're going to do it. Okay. You know the Takata airbags. They're dangerous. They kill people. Luckily, not too many, but the potential is there. So if you haven't checked it already, what you do is go to ismyairbagsafe.com.au, type in, and that's my rego, Queensland. So all you've got to do, and it comes up and says your vehicle airbag is not affected by the recall. Right. Easy as that. If that's a little bit too difficult, then there's also, you can send a text to 0487 247 224. You type in Takata, put in your Queensland and your rego, and it'll come up. At this time, your Subaru Outback is not identified as affected by the current airbag recall. Okay? There's still about 60,000 vehicles out there that have got the bags. Despite the efforts of the manufacturers going out, contacting people multiple times, some people come and go get necked. They don't care. Yeah.
Is there any truth to the stuff in the media about if you don't get your airbag replaced, you're compromising your insurance?
Possibly. That's an insurance question, but it wouldn't surprise me. The other thing is, if you don't get it done, I think that I'm of the belief that they're going to bring it in on, you won't be able to register your vehicle. That's a pretty good way to get it done.
Was that actually a worldwide problem?
Yes.
So we're talking about millions, literally.
Oh, millions of bags out there, absolutely. The 65,000 is just Australia. That could be less now. I know I had 90,000 in November, but it has dropped. But just check it. Make sure yours hasn't got one of them in it. Now I get all my information from the ACCC, scamwatch.gov.au. Terrific site. If you want to spend a week on the internet, just go to that site. It'll tell you all you want to know about scams. I'm not going to go into all the individuals and tell you how they work, how they don't work. That's all up there. One thing I didn't do was bring you a little black book of scams. So what I might have to do is send them out. There's a little black book that's been around for years. It goes through a lot of the scams, and you've got it's a little black book. It's surprising, but it goes through a lot of stuff. But the website's fantastic. You can also get alerts. So you get a text come through on your phone when new scams come through. That's always handy for me, particularly if I'm coming to a talk. Now, I didn't get a scam alert this morning, but I've got a slide up here hot off the presses yesterday. If you're a victim of a scam, and I don't ask that question anymore, has anybody been a victim? Because it can be embarrassing for the person. It can be eye-opening for me. I asked the question one day. I went to a church, and it was a ladies' group, and there was one gentleman rocked up. And before we started, because all the ladies were down the back talking, he was just sitting in where we were going to have it, and I said, "Hey, how you going, mate? Are you here for the talk?" He says, "Oh, yeah." He said, "What you're talking about is important. I want to know about it more." I said, "So what's you want to share with me?" He says, "Yeah, I was a victim of a scam 10 years ago." And I said, "Oh, okay. Now, this is where you never know whether to ask the next question. Do you want to share a bit more?" But he did. And he said, "Look, no, I don't mind talking about it. I tell people all the time. Approached by a scammer 10 years ago on a wealth creation type of I nearly said scheme, but a wealth creation thing." He said, "It's pretty jolly good. He got his friends in on it, and they all invested." Now his friends, he was a wealthy businessman. His friends were doctors, lawyers, teachers, police. Really, people who well-educated, well-informed, probably should know better. They got into the scheme, and as a total for the group, he said they lost $250 million. That's the first of the day, right? 250 million, and I went, "What?" I said, "You're kidding." He says, "No." And he said, "But what was worse?" He says, "I lost my business, I lost my house, I lost my wife, lost my kids. I suffered a stroke as a direct result of the pressure he was under." And he said, "It's only 10 years now, I'm just getting back to where I should be." Not wealth-wise, but health-wise, and his headspace, you know. So that was pretty drastic. That's why I don't ask the question too often. But I've never come across an amount like that before. If you're a victim, though, these are the people to talk to. ID Care. They are an organisation located up at Caloundra. I visited them in 2019 just to see what they were doing. They were really happy for us to come along, because they used to deal with the ACCC a lot and cybercrime, etc. But nobody from Queensland government had actually approached them. And I said, "Well, can I come and visit?" "Come on up, Bob." So 4 of us went up, had a tour of the place. I'll tell you what, it's not much bigger than this shed. But they have counsellors on the phones. So they have a call centre. At the moment, I'd say they're still working from home, or they might be back in the call centre. But if you ring them or contact them, somebody will ring, and it's a counsellor, and they will take you through the steps you need to recover whatever it is you've lost, whether it be money, whether it be identity. Excuse me. And that's www.idcare.org. Great people, and they're an independent organisation, but they do a lot of work with ACCC, with the Scam Watch, police, etc. Sayings to remember. Stop and check. Is this for real? Now, Scam Watch Week last year wasn't much of an event because nobody was, actually there were lots of scams. But the year before, that was their saying, and I've kept that one because scammers will want to, they want to pressure you into doing something quickly, without thinking about it, without checking about it. This won't be available tomorrow. You've got to take up the offer today. If you can just go, if you get an email, a letter, a phone call, and you go, stop and check, is this for real? It might be just enough time to slow things down and that you think about what's happening next, especially after the hints I'll give you later. The other one is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Who's heard that saying? Man, I have said that so many times since I joined fair trading in 2001. I wish I had a dollar for every time I'd said it. I wouldn't be standing here talking to you today. I'd be retired easily. Tell you what we could do, just to make it interactive so we don't, no one fall asleep or anything. How about every time I say, if it sounds too good to be true, you guys reply with, it probably is. Is that all right? So let's practice it. I'm talking blah, blah, blah. And I suddenly go, it sounds too good to be true. Not bad, but geez, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of mouths not working there. Let's try it again. If it sounds too good to be true, not bad, but how about with a little bit of gusto?
Probably is.
So if it sounds too good to be true, well done. Okay. And when we have that and you respond, the people who respond will give me $1. Yeah, so that went over well. Yeah. So that's the game. Those who respond will give me $1. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, who's the treasurer? It's not a scam. It's all a matter of perspective. From here, and it's not a scam. So who's the treasurer?
He's counting the money out the back.
Oh, yeah. I need somebody who's got pencil and paper just to keep a record. Thank you, Mark. Keep a record of how much I make. Okay, 2020.
In your dreams.
Stats from Scamwatch, as at 11th of January 2021. But that's when I took it. So in 2020, the reported scams to Scamwatch was that many. That's a lot, isn't it? But is it?
It's not true.
Is it really a lot? How many people are there in Australia?
25.
So what percentage is
I'd
that?
say it's a lot more than that
Oh,
because
yeah.
some things happen so often you don't bother. I mean, one that's been going around, the phone rings, you pick up.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, this is Janine from the NBN. Your home service is about to be cut off. Thanks very much. Just hang up.
Janine from the NBN, I only get Nicole.
Yeah, I get
And Nicole rings everybody at West.
Yeah.
Janine's in the Actually, I think Nicole has been sacked because I had a call from Angela. Angela, she sounded like a honey. I actually tried to make a date with her because I thought you were trying to scam me, I'll try and scam you with a dating romance scam. And she hung up on me. Anyway, but yeah, that isn't a lot of people, is it, in itself? But they're the ones that went to Scamwatch and reported them. They reckon the number of scam approaches is probably 4 or 5 times higher than that, which is what you're saying. But it's not many when you compare it to the number of people in Australia. The other question that you said was, who in the room has been approached by a scammer in 2020?
Directly.
A number. You recognise something as a scam. Okay. So next show of hands, who reported it? Oh, not many. Nobody.
That's the point I was making.
Exactly right. Most people don't report them.
But does anything happen? I mean, we get these phone calls all the time.
Yeah.
Why can't the government or Telstra just stop them?
Is this
That is
boosting
a
different numbers?
really good question that I have not got a very good answer to. Because they swap and change. If someone rings you with a scam and you ring them back, maybe that day you'll get through, but tomorrow you won't because they'll have cancelled the line. So there's a whole range of reasons why they don't.
Couldn't you fake phone number?
Yeah, fake phone number.
Emails that come up often will show that it's from the Westpac Bank or whatever. In actual fact, it's come from some.
I've
But
heard
you
of
would think you would have an app that where someone's calling from a non-registered for where it is.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Are they
There's
doing it
no
inside
easy answer
Australia
to
or
it. Sorry?
Are they talking from inside Australia?
Not necessarily, but they can be. And the numbers that you see come up as Australian numbers are probably ringing from overseas because I have an app that I can use to make, if I rang you, you would not see my phone number, I can make it any number I want. There's a free app that's available to do that. So anyone can do it. So there's no easy answer to that one. But I did hear this morning that they're closing, the government have stopped about, I'm going to say 100,000 apps, not apps, phone numbers, etc., from scammers, but they know there's millions more out there. It's pure logistics. It's logistics about.
Another thing that's happened, and this is quite reasonably often, once every fortnight I'd say, I'll have a missed call, and there'll be a Melbourne number or a Perth number, so I'll ring it back. This number is not in service.
Yeah, and that happens as well. I'll talk about those ones as well.
Oh, I was just going to say, when they ask you to press 1 or a number when you're talking to them, what does that actually do? Does that actually show you an approval?
Just depends on how they set it up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of those questions I can't answer. I'm not a techo.
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you how to avoid them.
Yeah.
I don't know how they all work. Okay, you know, in a physical, technical sense. I can guess sometimes, and I'll go through some of those that might make sense to you. Yes, sir.
There is a number, I can't remember what it is, but there's a number you can press if you ask to, and that gives them control of your phone.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure that happens. They could do.
Okay.
I hear a lot of stories.
Yeah.
I don't know whether half of them work, to be honest. But let's keep going though, and just for now. Now, those who reported a loss of that 200,000, what percentage of those people do you think reported a loss?
They reported it.
If they reported it,
99%.
99%?
Yeah.
10%.
Sorry?
10%.
10%, but we got 99, 75, 10. It's actually 10.7. Okay, so it's only a small number of people, even though they reported it, actually didn't have a loss.
Embarrassed.
Well, actually.
Well, they could be, but also what they're probably doing is reporting it because they feel good about reporting things, which is great. And it could be the first one it's ever happened. But you know yourself, after you get 9 or 10 of the one call, it becomes, I know about that. And everybody else does as well. That 10.7% equals about 23,000 people. How much do you think they might have lost?
46 million on average.
46 million. Ooh, that's a good. That's
We're
a good
asking
number.
on average.
No, actually the total loss. Let's look at the total loss. And it was 176 million. So 23,000 people lost that, which is an average of 7,600. So they're significant figures. Let's have a look, and that's great. You can look at that on the website, Scamwatch website.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
You started this section by asking how many people had a scam contact
In here.
in 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because I've had, I reckon, 12 in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, look, I was just asking 2020 because normally I say 12 months ago. Okay, I'm just saying in 2020, how did you have? I didn't worry about 2021 because
It's
it's been
become
obvious.
so commonplace.
Everybody's had some sort of a contact. The top 10 scams by the dollars lost according to Scamwatch. So the big one was investment schemes, your wealth creation, computerised betting, all those sort of ones where you're going to make money and wealth.
So what's it telling you? They're greedy bastards.
Well, let's have a look at that on the next slide, because the second one is the dating and romance scams.
They're the greedy bastards.
So let's get all the way there.
You mean my Ukrainian bride's not going to come?
Okay, we're probably jumping out of session here, but I did a talk to a number of international students, not last year, the year before, at QUT in the city. I had 200 students in this auditorium, and I started doing the same talk. Now the funny thing is, half of them didn't speak much English, so they had no idea what I was talking about. But I mentioned about dating and romance scams. Now I'm not going to go into detail over what they are, but for them I was, because they're international students. And I said, why do people go on these sites? And there was this right in front of me, front row, right down the bottom, this drop-dead gorgeous young lady. And she put her hand up first. I said, yes, why do they go on the dating site? And she said to me, to get a husband. In the best Ukrainian voice, I mean, I fake it to make it.
How many are you married now, boss?
Anyway, she says,
To get her address?
to get a husband. And I said, well, that's a good answer. I've got a couple of others. And then because someone like that answers you, you play with them for the rest of the thing. So then I said to her, so,
After
did you know, what happened with yourself? And she says, I live in Ukraine, I'm looking for an Australian husband, and I got one. And I said, great. They'd been married for 3 years, had 2 kids, she moved out here, that was a success story. And I'll tell you what, he's a lucky bugger. but then at the end of the session, she comes up to me and she says, Mr. Bob, you're a very, very clever man. She says, you know so much about scams. She says, you need to come to Ukraine. We show you way more than yeah. And I did ask her who was the scammer in their relationship, and she said, a bit of both.
I take it you were fishing, were you?
With a P, fishing
No,
with a P.
I was intrigued. The accent got me straight away. So that was just an example. You can see all the other scams, and there's about 50 under that. They're much less. Sorry.
I can't, I'm bloody blind, it's too small.
Oh, don't worry about reading them. It's on Scamwatch. Okay, it doesn't really matter. The 2 big ones, which is $60 million and $40 million. The rest pale into insignificance, but there's still a lot around.
So,
I was caught with a broken ATM in a major city, and I was helped, relieved of my money by a gentleman who, he said, this machine's been playing up, and it had, and we didn't know until we got back to Australia that we were losing $800 a day, so I lost only $12,000 over a couple of weeks. And
What country?
the way I learned, and it's not on your list there, that's why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
The way that we learned that we'd been done for $800 a day for a couple of weeks was that the bank rang up and said, how can you be here and in such and such a place?
That's the best part about banks now.
they
They ring you when there's obscure, strange transactions. I've had a number of calls. I've had 3 extra cards because someone tried to use mine.
But the banks
I
actually
do this
ring
stuff and they're still going to do it.
I had one and they just told me, rung up and told me they were cancelling the cards and
Yep.
they,
Yep.
because they weren't honouring what had been
Yep,
passed.
exactly right. And they've got ways of, I used to work in the Commonwealth Bank for 24 years, 3 months in the computer centre. Didn't get a gold watch, but I'm not bitter. And we were on, as a part of my job in the computer centre, we were there 24/7, and answering. We were the help desk for the Combank for the time, and we used to get the overseas calls all the time. You know, just and all we could do was stop the cards, wait till you get home. But now the banks are a bit more sophisticated. They're on the front foot, rather than on the back foot. So, gender, mountain lions. This is a good one.
Oh, yeah.
So, all types of scams. What it says here is, it's about 50-50. It's not males lose more than females, it's about 50-50. But, if we go to the investment schemes,
Oh, yes.
male 67, female 32.
Where win?
It's not, well, see, that's the thing, that's not really a win. Not really a win, but when it comes to the dating and romance schemes, female 70%, male 28.
Where win again?
You're pretty right.
See, what that tells me is, guys, we fall for the dollars, ladies fall for that mushy stuff. Okay? And they do, that's just, and most of those caught here are over 55.
Yeah, single elderly women.
Most of the ones caught here are male over 45. okay?
So you reckon we should be looking for over 55-year-olds?
I can't,
That's still 20 years younger, mate.
I can't endorse that. But if it sounds too good to be true,
Probably is.
one. So, delivery methods, usually by phone. Email and internet is second. If you add them up, it goes above the phone, but phone is a very popular method. That's why we get all the phone calls. That's why when I have a day off and stay at home all day or work from home all day, I then realise that we get 12 phone calls a day and they're all scammers. All the other days, I don't care. I'm not home. But it happens. But with the phone calls, if you recognise it's a scam, what do? Hang up. Oh, now, hang on. If anybody wants to tell me how they handle phone calls, you can tell me how you do that, but it's got to be in a way that I don't or I haven't heard before.
Best way to do it's a whistle.
No, it's not. Because you know why?
What?
Because when you whistle down the phone,
And there you
the
go.
scammer's got your phone number.
It's a real
He's
number.
going to ring you back, and guess what he's got in his phone? A whistle.
Well, I've never had it.
But that's what you've got to be careful of. Same as when they swear and abuse you or threaten you over the phone. They've just they ring you, and look, most guys tend to want to just say to the scammer, look, I really prefer you didn't ring. We're not interested in what you're selling. We're not interested in what you've got or threatening. I'd rather you don't ring again. Please, I'm going to leave the phone now and keep going with my business. Or they might just use a couple of words.
Yeah.
Okay? Anyway.
I say this line is being monitored by the Australian Federal Police. Do you wish to continue?
Press
Okay.
1.
And that's illegal. That's illegal because that means, well, it could be deemed illegal because you're impersonating a police officer. That isn't illegal. I'm honest, that's an illegal act, so don't do it. The best
It's probably true.
No, it's all right. I'm taking it. But the best thing is just to hang up. I used to play the game and do the community service, and I'd talk to them for about 10-15 minutes, string them along, because I figured that if they're talking to me, I probably saved 5 people getting a call. That's bullshit, okay? Honestly, if I just put the phone, some people get the phone and just put it there and walk away, they've hung up in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
They're off and going. There's all these tricks. The best thing to do is just hang up. And if they ring back, hang up again. But what I have heard is, and I haven't experienced it, but if you abuse them down the phone, the scammers, especially the overseas ones, they do not like Aussies because we're smart alecks, okay? And we will tell them where to go, and sometimes they will tell you exactly where to go coming back at you, or they've got your phone number. Now, I do not want to abuse a scammer at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, abuse them, and then at 2 a.m. we get it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in my household, we've got a phone in our bedroom next to the bed. It's not on my side of the bed. I do not want my wife to, at 2 a.m, phone rings, what's she going to do? Sit bolt upright in the bed, because who rings at that time? Family. There's something wrong with the family, right? I don't want her to pick up the phone and she gets foul-mouthed, torrent of abuse, death threats coming straight at her at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's not worth my leaving. My life is worth more than that. She'll know who did it, okay? But that's why you just hang up. Emails, what do we do with them? Delete. If you recognise an email, delete straight away. No further correspondence entered into.
Really good YouTube on by I can't think his first name, Vetch on scamming. and he loves scamming emails. He replies to them all the time.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of TED Talks.
Yeah.
One guy shows him, he says what he does with scammers.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's all great, makes good, I make some jokes, but it's a serious business.
Oh,
It
yeah,
has serious consequences, but we all know what to do. Age groups, by far, and I'm going to say there's a couple of guys here, probably over 50. But the big two groups are the 55 and plus. Okay, seniors tend to be the ones who are, and I think that's because we're trusting. We're a different generation. They're home, and
They got the money too.
they've got income to dispose of generally. So yeah. What have we got now? Here's an email that was sent to me by a police sergeant from Toowoomba. Tony, his name was. He wasn't the scammer, but he used to send me scam emails all the time, and I've kept this one because I really like it. I've used it for years now, since 2014. That's how long I've had it for. So he sent this to me, and I kept it because if you look at that, it's supposed to be National Bank, and there's about. Can anyone see what could indicate it's a scam?
It's got no name.
It's double B on the NAB.
Okay, double B, let's go to the top. So nabb.com.au. If you get an email from anybody that you don't know or don't recognise, always check what the email address is. Now, the only people that can have an nabb.com.au National Bank email are the staff. So the scammers will add or subtract a number or a letter, and it almost looks the same. Who didn't see the NABB? Yeah, a lot of people just don't see it. But that's what they're banking on, that you don't see it. So always check. If you get an email and you're not really sure about it, check it. Next,
No.
to recipients. This is a scattergun approach. This isn't a personal email, it's to recipients. And this is exactly how it came to me. I've just copy and pasted. The next, urgent notification, read ASAP. Now, when I was in the Commonwealth Bank for 24 years, 3 months, didn't get a gold watch, but I'm not bitter. All banks and organisations use acronyms. My daughter's in the government, she comes home and, well, I don't understand anything she's talking about. It's the XYZ and the NPY and the talk real English. Anyway, if I had used ASAP on an email, which when I go to the bank there was no such thing as an email, but we would have got a slap over the wrist for doing that sort of stuff. That's National Bank. What's missing?
Logo.
A logo. There it is. There's a logo. It was missing on the original. I had to create that. Took me about 15 seconds. Google Images, National Bank logo, copy paste. That's how long it took to put it in there. If I didn't see a logo, I wouldn't believe it's National Bank. Why? Because logos are important. Any organisation that has a logo wants it to be seen by everybody. They pay big dollars for it. When we got the Commonwealth Bank one, the Sayo biscuit with a bit of Vegemite in the corner, we laughed. The staff said, "You've got to be kidding. You spent this much money on that. No one will know what it is." Who doesn't recognise the Commonwealth Bank now? Oh, excuse me for a second.
Scam.
I'll tell you what, it could be. I'm going to...
Do you want us to tell him it's too good to be true?
I don't recognise the number, so I didn't answer it, okay? I'm really worried, though, that I'm supposed to be doing contact tracing training. It could be asking me to do that. I'd rather do this stuff. Anyway, dear esteemed customer, I'm an esteemed customer of my bank, but is that how they would address you? No. If I saw an email like this from an organisation, especially a bank, if I saw a esteemed customer, that's a scam bank. I'd expect to see dear
Bill.
No, dear Robert, dear R.G. Walker, dear Mr. Walker, dear Robert George Walker, dear Robert Walker. That's what I expect to see. If I saw dear Bob, I would say it's a scam because the banks, my banks, do not know me as Bob. They know me as whatever name I put on the accounts. What name do you have to put on there? Or whatever your ID is, okay? Even though I got the name Bob from my first day in the Commonwealth Bank from the manager, who said, what am I going to call you, Robert or Bob? I said, you call me what you like. He says, you're a Bob. 40-something years later, I'm still a Bob. No, very poor punctuation sometimes. No full stops. Sincerely, NAB online banking. What's that? It's a signature block. Doesn't say who rang you. Doesn't give their return phone number, where they're come from, what branch they're at. There's no email address, no website. That's what's on it. HTTP. Now, yes. So who knows that HTTP precedes the wwws on every website. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Did that without a prompt. That's so good. But if it's got an S, it means secure or safe.
Yeah.
If it was a bank, it expected to have a safe website. What do we call the blue underline thing?
Hyperlink.
A hyperlink or a link, just a link. It says, oh, look at that, up there, nabb.com. Down here, nab.com.au. That has to be true, hasn't it? No, not necessarily. Because that is just a label. It could have kindly view here, H-E-R-E, blue underline. So what's, now I'm going to have to go over here for a sec, just excuse me. Now, how do you know where that's actually going to go?
You
Well done.
right click on it,
If
yeah.
you, no, if you, oh, don't like it.
No,
What you do is you get your pointer
yeah.
and you, when you can find it, there we go, you hover. Oh, that's probably, okay.
That's a
You
power.
hover your pointer, it's because they're not matched up.
Yeah.
And then what will happen is, I'm going to hit enter, but if you hover, it'll bring up a little box that isn't always up there, it could be down here in the left-hand corner, that tells you where it's going, the actual website, the actual URL it's going to. In this case, this one is not going to the NAB, it's going to randysrotty.com. Does that sound like a national bank to you?
Yeah.
Well, back in the 70s, when the Combank boys and girls used to party with the National Bank boys and girls, there were lots of randysrotty.coms at those parties, but not in the official capacity of the National Bank. So I would suggest if you clicked on that link, what would happen is it would open up a web page identical to the real National Bank website. You wouldn't tell the difference. Somewhere on there it would talk about notifications or online notifications. Now, if you're not a National Bank customer, would you get this far? Gosh, I hope not. Because why open up a National Bank email if you're not a customer? But if you were, it would say, go to online notifications, log in with your username and password. And when you log in with your username and password, on the other side of the computer in Scamland, the scammer goes, you little ripper, I've got a winner here. So he's the username and password that you've just freely given to him, he grabs that and goes to his other computer, which is logged on to the real National Bank website, puts your username and password in, opens up the account. Oh, look at all these accounts. This is nice. And takes your money out. Easy as that.
Just with that,
Yeah.
there is another, query this, with Commonwealth Bank, for example, I've got two-factor authentication, so you can't give it,
Correct.
even if I give you my password, you can't
Yeah.
make money
You
out.
you need to have two-factor or multi-factor
Yeah.
authentication on your bank accounts. I have the same on all mine for doing it. Yes.
Yeah, now, if we sent that to the authorities, that
Yep.
web, can they then get rid of him?
No.
They can't.
No, you
Just close
won't
it down.
find it. You won't find it.
never find.
No,
You won't
just
find
close the website. I mean,
Yeah, but it's probably overseas.
but they still can't do it.
Can't do anything about it unless
Right. No,
they, yeah. That's basically, it's very hard to do it overseas. If it was an Australian one, yes, they might be able to do something,
Yeah.
but it's very tricky.
Is there any blocking mechanisms like stopping them once they've identified?
I
Blocking them.
I can block phone numbers that I
Blocking them
recognise.
from coming in through Australian service.
No, I don't
You
believe
can
so.
block your own.
I don't
But you
believe
don't
it
get a
is.
repeat from
Yeah.
him on your email. Okay.
This is a new one, it's
Yeah.
much the same. I only got this from a guy from Neighbourhood Watch who I'm going to go and see in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to talk to him.
there.
So he's got an Australia Post, so up the top, that doesn't look like Australia Post to me. It's in iCloud or whatever. I'm going to go through this quick. That was the date I received it, or he received it. Dear customer, once again, no name there, so it's got to be a bit dodgy. Poor spelling, because the other one didn't have poor spelling, but just had bad punctuation. Poor spelling. Once again, signature block. It's a nothing signature block, and that's about it. This is the one I got this morning. So with the COVID vaccines coming in, they're expecting a heap of people, scammers, will try and get our money, and I can't read that from here, but the rollout of the vaccine in the US and Britain has inspired many vaccine-related scams with a 300% jump in vaccine-related website domains in the lead up to the first jabs. That means scammers have gone in and grabbed domain names and in preparation for what's happening. And they'll all have, so it makes it look like nabb.com, or it makes it look like a legitimate organisation that's sending it. Cyber criminals have also set up fake British National Health Service websites that send emails asking for confirmation of vaccination appointments as a way of stealing people's identities. They predicted a rise in text message scams, given some internet users were becoming wise to phishing scams. Who's become wise to phishing scams? That's when that email goes out and they're asking for your personal details. In the US, people were texted asking them to pay $150 to jump the queue and get early access to the backside.
That's a scam.
I love that.
Through the back door.
Yeah, and we believe that will happen here. I think what they mean is early access to the vaccine, okay? The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission Scam Watch has received at least 5,500 scam reports mentioning the coronavirus, with more than 7.5 million in reported losses since the outbreak of 19. Scammers exploiting people's desire to get the vaccine early, that's what the motive is, okay? So that was in the Financial Review yesterday, that article. Government impersonators at phishing. They will ask for your personal and financial information. Government's got all your information. What are they going to ring you for or get on your phone? Lure you into opening malicious links or attachments. Never open an attachment or a link if you've got no idea where it's come from, or if you don't recognise where the medium has come from. Try to gain remote access to your computer. Who's had those ones? There's something wrong with the computer. Oh, the old one used to be went from Telstra, and there's errors on your computer. Guess what? There's errors on everybody's computer. But they would lead you through, if you didn't know how to find them, and say, look at the errors. And then they'd ask for remote access.
One guy said, which computer I've got for, can you give them the MAC address? You must know it, there's a problem.
And he would have hung up. Exactly right. There's ways of doing it, but seek payment for a fake service or something you did not purchase. Of course, that's what they look after. Superannuation scams. Last year, the government was doing the $10,000 early superannuation release. Scammers were ringing up people and saying to them, we can help you get access to your super for a fee. Guess what? The government does it for nothing anyway. The ATO has coordinated the early release of super through MyGov. No need to involve a third party or pay a fee to get access. Now, if you've got something from MyGov, you never follow a hyperlink to reach the MyGov website. So if you get an SMS or an email, never click on a link because it could be a bad one. So who'd be prepared to send something to that website there, which is mygov.com.au?
MyGov is 2 words.
No.
It wouldn't be a .com.
No, I don't think there's any
HTTPS in front of it.
Oh, no, it doesn't have to, that's what it just looks like. It doesn't need the HTTPS, it's just
I don't have a
saying,
problem sending it to it, but I know that it's not going to go anywhere because to get into MyGov, you actually have to go in with your password and access.
oh, you can go into MyGov prompt, that's what they're saying, is go to MyGov, but
But it's not.
mygov.com.au and
It's
mygov.gov. But equally, it actually, that is a bad one,
Right.
even though it looks all right, because the real one is .my.gov.au. I didn't know that till I looked it up, but you've got to be really careful of how they just change it. Threat-based impersonators, the NBN, okay, Nicole, who's had Nicole call? Nicole, lovely, lovely girl. Angela was the one you've had. I had Angela, you had someone else, anyway.
Made up name.
NBN is a wholesaler, not a retailer. They're not going to ring you once you're on. Okay, they don't need you unless they're booking you in to get it set up. Telstra, threaten to cut off the internet and telephone if you don't pay them quickly or whatever. That's pretty common, that one. Although, I have had some really good renewed deals by listening to what the Telstra ones have said, because they were giving quite, they had to answer questions to my satisfaction, but I have had some good deals, because they used to telemarket. Tax office, who's at the tax office call? Generally around about October, right then. You face immediate arrest unless you pay. They're not going to threaten you. Yeah, they're going to send the dogs around. Really.
They don't have to, they know more than
They'll
we
send
do.
you a letter. There'll be an official letter come to say, look, there's a problem with your account. Come and see us about it.
They used to ring up and they had these Indians were ringing up and saying, we are from the Australian tax.
And my name's Peter.
And did you know that we used to have expat Australians working in those overseas call centres, training the staff up how to talk Aussie?
Yes.
And they would use certain buzzwords for different areas, or we live around the corner, you ask them where they live, and they say Sydney, you say whereabouts in Sydney, and they give you this suburb. Yeah, they were pretty well schooled, they're pretty smart.
Having been to India many times, you can't de-Indianise an Indian. Verbally, in his verbal words.
I was so tempted to do something then, but I'm not, because I'm respectful of every race.
I'm not being racist.
No, you didn't, but I'm very,
Just
very
talking
nearly.
about verbal.
Yeah.
Most of the doctors who are talking about COVID are Indian,
Yes.
and I suspect most of the accountants in the tax office that are also Indian.
We have a lady who is originates from India in our compliance area, and she rings people up to tell them that she's got their file and she's trying to help them. And she says, I'm from the Office of Fair Trading, blah, 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 because of her accent. And she's trying to help them get a refund. It's unbelievable, yes.
Call centres,
Yeah.
I think all of us hate call centres.
I used to
And
work in call
there is a
centres.
lesson, there is a lesson here. If you offer service, you increase your business. Have a look at Aussie Broadband.
Why?
Because they're all Australians. The
Yeah.
call centres are in Australia.
It's
You're
Combank.
talking to a proper Australian.
Combank is now Australian call centres. Telstra.
What's a
Did you
proper
know that,
Australian?
has anyone worked for Telstra here? But in Telstra, I used to say, is there anybody I can ring up to talk to that speaks Australian? The Telstra shops, they're ringing the same people
Yes.
that are ringing from overseas,
Yeah.
and they have trouble talking to them. So, Centrelink, this is one that was going around about 18 months ago. Extra payments when you pay a fee. Oh, that's pretty cool. If you pay a fee, you'll get extra payments. Good deal. Unexpected callers. Be careful with any caller you don't know. Never give them your PIN, ever. What's a PIN? Personal identification number. It is not a PIN number, because that would be a personal identification number. Okay?
Like an ABN.
Yeah, an ATM machine. Automatic teller machine. Yeah, okay. Then, I'm just regressing back to Combank when I worked there, the things we weren't allowed to say. Passwords, be careful of passwords. Somebody mentioned earlier about a very rude word that's a password. You know what the number one password is?
password.
Password.
No, it's number 4.
I've forgotten my password.
Oh, as a sentence, that'd be a real one, that one. The number 1 password from, they
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the number 1 password by far and away. But then the number 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those people thought they'd outsmart the scammers. Password came in at number 4. And that F word, it came in about 11, I think. Bank account details, don't give them out to anyone you don't know. And any personal details, date of birth, address, and licensed Medicare. Be careful if somebody contacts you out of the blue. If you don't know who they are, just be really careful. What was the saying? Stop and check, is this for real? Don't just assume they've got an accent, they're going to be a scammer though. Somebody you've never met asked you for money, and that's where the dating, who's on a dating site at the moment? I don't want to know.
We'll come and see you afterwards.
But the dating and romance scams, what happens there is they build up a relationship, and love is a very powerful emotion. So they don't always ask for money straight up, but they might say after 3 emails, I love you. And that's not the love that most people want, but they will groom their victims maybe for weeks or months before they'll actually ask for money.
Even
and when they ask for the money, then what they're going to do is they'll find a reason for not visiting you, because if it starts off on an email, it's going to become physical some stage if it's a long term, and then they make up all manner of excuses why they can't arrive. Ask you to pay or give money through unusual payment methods like gift cards, wire transfers, and cryptocurrency. Who can afford cryptocurrency at the moment? 50 grand, I think it's worth at the moment. Ask you to pay in advance. Who buys and sells stuff on the internet? Okay, if you're buying stuff on the internet, be careful about paying up front unless it's through PayPal or something like that. But never send the money direct, because there's a good chance you're not going to get the goods. Ask for personal information. Just be careful if you don't know where it's coming from. Pressure you to buy or make a decision quickly, because if it sounds too good to be true. Okay, throw down 8 onto that one of yours, mate. That's 9. My wife's not going to be happy with me today because I promised her a night out. But anyway, we'll be going to Macca's for sure. Offers you something that sounds too good to be true.
Probably is.
Thank you very much. It's creeping up. Actually, yeah, we'll go to that later. It's probably a chance it's a scam. We're on the downward slide here. We're going okay for time?
Yeah.
Okay. Protect your bank account. Never give bank account details to anyone you don't know or trust, especially kids.
Never give it to anybody.
Keep your receipts. Okay, keep any receipts. That's a good idea. For receipts, and I'm straying into consumer law here, not constitutional law, but consumer law. Keep your receipts. Every receipt when I purchase something, for more than $100, I photocopy the receipt and then file it with the receipt, because we all know that a lot of them fade. Okay? So when the goods break down and you need to get your receipt to prove you bought it at the store, and you can look through, oh, here it is, blank piece of paper. That's just a little word of advice. Check your statements regularly. I'm a big budget person. I've got a big spreadsheet. I do my budget. And I check my accounts every, maximum a week, but every 2 to 3 days, because in my budget I've got to put I've got to account for every transaction. It's so much easier if you do it every couple of days, but equally, if I see something I haven't made, I immediately go to the wife and say, what was that? And she'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I bought it. I'm not worried about what you bought, just where is it, so I can categorise it. Report unexplained transactions to your bank. Well, as we found out, the banks usually let you know before you know about it. Or quite often they do. Don't trust them religiously, but if you see something you're not sure of, tell your bank. Keep your bank cards safe. Don't hand them out to anyone, and especially tap and pay. Now, I hate tap and pay, but everybody's doing it. I've become a convert. Last year I didn't want to do it. Being an ex-banker, I think that's so wrong. I want a PIN that I know, and I don't want to just walk past. You know, who said Bunnings? You go to Bunnings? Yeah, go up to every cash register and hit it. Anyway, it's just my little bugbear. Make sure nobody else knows your PIN, especially kids. They'll take that money out quicker than anything.
You need to scan.
Protect yourself online. Check you're on a secure website. How do we tell it's secure? HTTPS. Make sure any website you visit and make payments to has the correct website address in the address bar. So always, if you're not sure, just check it. Never click on links or open attached files from spam emails or any email. Always keep strict privacy settings on social networking sites. Oh, who's on Facebook? A lot of people aren't. I'm only on Facebook because I do not type anything into Facebook. It's there as an information gatherer because I see where the kids are, where they've been on holidays, what they ate for dinner last night. Why do I have to know that? All the local kids, what birthdays. It all comes to me. I don't type anything. I don't like anything. You know that hit the like button? Stuff like that. I don't like any of it. But I do not do that. Now, the other thing with Facebook, watch your settings. Who's had the experience where you might be at your laptop or computer, whatever, and you start getting ads for things that you've been talking about?
Yeah.
My wife and daughter, 2 years ago, were sitting at the kitchen table talking about my daughter getting a job. This is a conversation they hadn't had before because they started talking about, Sue said, look, you want to travel, why don't you be a travel agent? See what it takes to become a travel agent. So they're talking away and they mentioned Flight Centre and this and that and that. Within 15 minutes, Amy's, my daughter Amy, is getting messages on her phone. Because, teenage kids, the phone doesn't leave their hand, And she's got it on the table, it's going ding, ding, ding. And it's talking about how to lodge a application to join Flight Centre, other places, blah, blah, blah. And then they realised the phone, her permissions, the microphone was a permission for Facebook. So Facebook, not Facebook and not somebody sitting on the phone listening, but it was picking up the words and it just convolutes them and spits out advertising. If you don't want that to happen, no, phone was just on the bench, but because the microphone setting is that Facebook, you've given Facebook permission to use the microphone, so it gathers all that stuff, right? Same as your Google Minis and all, and Alexa and all those. And if you don't want that to happen, then turn your microphone permissions off. Okay, I've done that. I went through all my, when I had that happen in that lounge room, kitchen, I turned all microphones off on my phone to all apps, unless they really needed it, like Google Maps or something like that.
So the app doesn't actually have to be open for Tom?
No, that's correct.
Just your phone's got to be on.
Yeah, phone on, turning it off and leaving it off, that'll slow it
My
down.
wife spends a fair bit of time on the iPad.
Yeah.
And she's had exactly the same thing at times when she's been talking to that, or she's sent an email or something to my daughter and something, and then half an hour later or less she gets an ad for this, but I think this is a bit weird,
Yeah, you can go home tonight and say why. You will score brownie points.
We were suspected there was something like that.
Yeah, that's what it would be. Don't respond to text messages or missed calls from numbers you don't recognise. See, what a good example that was today. I didn't know the number. Can't wait for them to backload it and find out who it is. Well, I'm not going to do it here, okay? Protect yourself shopping online. Don't pay invoice unless goods and services are both ordered and delivered. Read and understand all the terms and conditions before you sign anything. For major purchases, check the contract overnight. My daughter is setting up a little thing at the moment, and I've told her before you hire a theatre, because that's what you won't go into details, but make sure that you check the contract that you're going into to make sure that you are happy with what it says, because they're different places. She was very glad that she took my advice of that yesterday. Know how to stop subscription services you signed up for. Be careful signing up for subscriptions. If an offer requires a lot of your money or time, get some independent advice. So if you've got to do a lot or invest a lot, get independent advice. Phone calls, the wangiri. Does anyone speak Japanese here? Wangiri is Japanese for one call or one. What happens is you get a phone call, it rings once and stops before you can answer it.
Yeah.
And what it looks like, I'll show you, that was off my phone. That number rang me. Actually, it's funny, I was just finished a presentation and they rang, and it's from, because it shows the country because it's an overseas call. Comoros. Who knows where Comoros is? Yeah, just off Madagascar. And when I got the call, I went, oh, who do I know in Madagascar? Nobody. So I didn't answer it. But I would suggest that if you did answer that call, or if I answered that call, I would be put on to, I'd ring it, it would open up and say, or it might be just music, or somebody would tell me, can you hold on, I'll just put you on hold. And while the music's playing, I'm spending money because it's a premium line. Premium lines are the old sex lines. Remember the old sex lines? Oh, you do? Interesting.
A long time ago.
See, that joke never works at a school. Anyway, or anywhere else like that. So, if you rang it, you'd be on hold, and for every minute you're on hold, then you are paying money to the scammer. When do you pay it? When the phone bill comes in. Down the bottom of the bill, it'll have premium calls, $56 or something like that, whatever the amount is. Once again, why doesn't Telstra or the Optus, they probably don't know their scam lines, it's just the way they're set up. Car accident scams. Someone in your family has had a car accident in the last 12 months. Well, that'd probably be nearly everybody. Just don't. Sometimes they're insurance agents trying to get you to switch insurance. Sometimes they're scammers trying to just get information from you. Natural disaster scams, that's when something bad happens, like COVID, like the vaccine. Well, that's not a bad thing, but it's to do with COVID. What we had in 2011, we had bushfires, we had drought, we had floods, all the big things, and that's when the scammers come out trying to trick you into giving them money. Fake charity collections come out. If you want to check whether a charity is okay, and we should give to charities, they're important, they do great work in the community, the real ones. We should give and be generous with them. You can check from our website whether a charity is registered. Oh, actually, there's a charities website, Australia-wide. If I'm going to give to a charity, I go to them directly. I don't wait for somebody to ring me, okay, because I don't know whether they're a scam or not. So I always go direct.
You also find with those that if you give to one, you finish up getting 15 calls from
Correct.
others.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. There is no Windows or Microsoft help desk. There is none. They're not as prevalent as they used to be a number of years ago, but there. Could you imagine if Windows had a help desk? The call centre would have to be the help desk, would be the size of Tasmania. There'd be so many people ringing. How can you win a lottery if you haven't bought a ticket? So when you get the pop-ups on your laptops, you know, you have won.
Well, what if you had a 10,000th visitor or something like that?
1 million, 1 million, because that makes you feel really good. Yeah, all those sort of pop-ups, don't buy into them, they're fake. The ATO banks, government departments do not phone you and ask for money. They get it other ways.
Before you know.
Or ask you to pay in gift cards or cryptocurrency. That's why we had ACCC and Fair Trading. We put little cards up in the supermarkets, and on the supermarket, you know where the gift cards are? And usually you still see them on the top, and it talks about the ATO. ATO put them out, saying we won't ask for gift cards because people were getting gift cards, coming to the counter and buying heaps. So we were telling supermarkets, be careful of that. I can tell you, I did put in my tax this year, last year, and I did get a refund, which is great when it happens. I was expecting an envelope full of gift cards. I was sadly disappointed, it actually went into my account directly. Report a scam, you can report to us. Are we going to catch the buggers? Probably not. It's knowing and making people aware of them that's going to stop them. They will, when the first, now I can do this one here. When was the first scam recorded?
Oh,
Adam and Eve.
Yes, the apple. It was. That was the first, well, I say the first one, it was in the Bible, but right at the start, when the snake came up, tricked Eve into eating the apple. Why? What did he promise her? She was going to be a god. And that was the first one, and then there were multiples after that. And so I don't think it's ever going to go away. Office fair trading, you can get on to us. It's a scam. Scam Watch is great. Go to the website. Have a look at the website, guys. It'll tell you how all those different ones work. Australian Cybercrime Online Reporting Network, or ACORN, they're pretty good. You can report it to them for cyber crimes. And online scams. Stay Smart Online. I get little newsletters from them all the time. They're very good, especially when it's to do with computers. Cyber Smart. Phone scams, telemarketers. Report the telemarketers to us if they're doing the wrong thing, because there's rules around telemarketers. And it's called unsolicited consumer agreements, so your door knockers and your telemarketers under the consumer law have got extra rules that they have to obey. Who's on the do not call register? How long ago did you go onto the do not call register with them? Ages ago. If you go on to, in the old days, you had to redo it every 12 months. Then they changed it to 3 years, then they changed it to 7 years. Now, if you go on today, you're on for life.
Does it work?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You get so many
Okay. Let's talk about what doesn't work. There are some exemptions. Charities, religious organisations, and political parties. It will not stop them because they're not selling you anything necessarily. It will also not stop scammers because scammers don't obey rules. So, but it will stop Australian businesses from ringing you to sell you things because they've got to check the register before they ring you. Now, if it's an Australian business selling you stuff, and they're doing the wrong thing, and you say, I'm on the do not call register, you know what they're going to do? They'll hang up pretty quick because they don't want to get caught out. But if you report them, something can be done. Okay? That's about it, I think. That's how you can stay in touch with us if you want, if you're that way inclined. And
for the purposes of your collecting stats and reporting, having like money taken out of your bloody, your credit cards and that sort of stuff, that's not a scam, is it? Like, unauthorised access to your credit card.
unauthorised access.
Well, it's like the other day I had purchased in Ireland or something, on the credit card.
Yeah.
That's not a scam, is it? I mean, it's not classified as a scam on your.
Oh, I think if somebody's used your credit card overseas,
Yes.
that's fraud.
That's right.
That's not a scam.
No, that's right. So
That's not trying to trick you.
That's not for reporting.
No, that's more police or your bank, so they can do something so they can't hold you. Yeah.
Okay, we might has anyone got any last questions?
I can hang around for a little while if you want to. Usually I'll be a line-up because people want to ask me.
Yeah, I want to get the number for that Swedish girl.
Ukrainian. And she's happily married to the Ukrainian.
She may not be happy anymore.
But thank you for your attention.
All right, Bob. Thank you.
Thanks.